I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
You've probably never heard of Jan Karski. Well, tonight you'll learn how he almost changed history. Christian yoga. This priest practices it.
It's a way of augmenting your own spiritual communication with God.
And look out, Lino Rulli hits the links. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Saying God bless Poland and each one of you, Pope Benedict paid tribute to all Poles and the leaders of the Warsaw Uprising this weekend. It was the 65th anniversary of that historic uprising. The Polish people fought back against the Nazis, an effort that ultimately led to the end of Nazi occupation of the Polish capital.
But before the uprising of 1944, one man actually risked his own life to bring greater attention to Nazi atrocities. He was a dashing diplomat whose life took a dramatic turn. At a time when many remained silent, Jan Karski, a Polish Catholic, risked his life to speak out against the horrors he witnessed in Nazi Germany. Over time, Karski's story has faded, but his acts of bravery will come to life once again on screen. This unsung hero is the subject of a new documentary by acclaimed filmmaker Sławomir Grünberg.
This film is about a man who wanted to change the world for better. He took on himself a task, a very difficult task, very risky task, to explain during the Second World War to the powers of the world what happens to Jews. He wasn't a Jew, he was a Catholic. He decided to work on this mission because he felt compassion. He wanted to give this message.
Born Jan Karski in April 1914, Karski was a member of a devout Catholic family in Poland's second largest city. After World War II began, his patriotism compelled him to join the Polish underground. He soon embarked on a dangerous mission: to carry information from Nazi-occupied Poland to America.
Jan Karski had to dress up as a Jew. He had to put old clothing, ragged clothes, and had the Jewish star on his clothing. He entered through the secret tunnel, which was very narrow and small. He entered this tunnel with his Jewish friend, and suddenly, enter on the other side.
Driven by his conscience and his faith, Karski successfully smuggled out of Poland microfilm with hundreds of documents detailing what would become the most horrifying chapter of the 20th century: the Holocaust.
Something what Karski remembered from visiting Warsaw Ghetto was the image of two German boys who were walking streets of Warsaw Ghetto hunting for Jews. And Karski, with his friend who brought him into the ghetto, were in hiding, watching this scene from a little opening in the window, seeing these two kids, German kids with guns, hunting and actually shooting a Jew in the window. One of the guys who brought him into Warsaw Ghetto, he constantly would say, whisper to Karski's ear, saying, "Remember this, remember this, remember this." I can only speculate that this was probably the most moving thing he noticed, he saw. This was probably the most tragic story. As a sensitive person, he decided to take this task over other tasks.
And when we return, we'll learn about the crushing setback that altered the course of Jan Karski's mission and life.
And Congress is also keeping busy this week. We'll have that and all the rest of the day's headlines just ahead. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. We continue now with our look at Jan Karski. In our last segment, we learned that Jan Karski, disguised as a Jew, secretly entered a Warsaw ghetto to gather information about Nazi atrocities. We rejoin our story after Karski's escape and his journey to America to share what he learned. Jan Karski managed to avoid capture by the Gestapo and arrived safely in America. But when he reached Washington, the reaction was not what he expected, despite meetings with President Roosevelt and Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter.
What was amazing and what was unbelievable when you think about this from today's perspective, that when he had this conversation with Justice Frankfurter, his response was, I really don't believe what you're saying. I hear your words, but I really don't believe that what you're saying is true. This was the most stunning answer Jan Karski could receive after not only risking his life, but also after trying to convey and give the message to someone who is so important and powerful. President Roosevelt didn't say, I don't believe you, but he basically, after listening, didn't make any movement which would show any understanding of what Jan Karski came with. There was no response, there was no action.
Embittered by his reception, Karski retired from his position in the Polish underground.
The fact that he was not successful, the fact that nobody listened to him and nobody believed him, definitely affected his life.
Unable to return to Poland for fear he would be apprehended by the Nazis, Jan Karski remained in the United States. In 1965, he married a Jewish Holocaust survivor, Pola Nolerinska. Over the course of their 27 years together, Karski's bond with victims of Nazi atrocities was strengthened. Sadly, Pola committed suicide in 1992. There have been tributes to Karski over the years. A tree was planted in his name in the Alley of the Righteous Among the Nations in Jerusalem. In 1985, his appearance in the renowned documentary Shoah resulted in a resurgence of interest in his story. And most recently, in April 2009, New York City honored Karski by designating the southeast corner of Madison Avenue and 37th Street Jan Karski Corner.
If they had believed him, they could have saved millions of people if they had wanted to.
Yet Karski, who passed away in 2000, remains unknown to the general public. Grunberg hopes to change that.
I think it's an excellent example to anybody that just sitting and watching from the distance is not a solution where people are dying, where the world needs help. People like Jan Karski are unfortunately rare species. Most of people wouldn't act like him, wouldn't take such a huge risk. That's why we should think about him as an example of goodness, as an example of someone we should follow.
For more on Jan Karski and Slavomir Grunberg's project, head on over to our blog. Just go to netny.net/currents, click on Riding the Wave there, and we've posted much more information. Well, the debate over abortion and proposed health insurance legislation continues. A bill proposed by California Congresswoman Lois Capps attempts to reach a compromise by allowing plans to cover abortions without using federal funds to pay for them. A spokesman for the National Right to Life calls that proposal a sham, though, saying plans that cover abortion would still receive government funding. Well, the United States has a new ambassador to the Vatican. The Senate has confirmed Miguel Diaz for the post. Diaz, a theology professor at St. John's University and St. Benedict's College in Minnesota, says he's grateful to both the Senate and to the president.
Speculation is heating up over the Vatican's investigation of Catholic nuns in the U.S. According to a letter sent out to leaders of 341 religious congregations, the Vatican wants to do a quote-unquote constructive assessment and is concerned about the nuns' quality of life. The religious communities are being asked, among other things, to lay out the process of responding to sisters who dissent from church teachings. From Kenya, the president there has commuted the death sentences of 4,000 prisoners. The inmates had been sentenced to death by hanging, although no one in Kenya has been hanged for 22 years. The sentences were all commuted to life in prison. The head prison chaplain there applauded the move, saying many inmates were innocent. Stay tuned a little later on Currents. Lino Rulli gets schooled on the golf course.
Coming up, a priest talks about the spirituality of yoga.
It gives you a sense of discipline to your prayer, and it doesn't ignore the body.
Yesterday, you saw a group of men and women who practice a Christian form of yoga as a spiritual exercise, so to speak. But what they describe as an alternate form of prayer is not the only alternative to be found in Christian prayer practice.
Exactly. And someone who knows a little about that is Monsignor Fernando Ferraris. He is pastor of Immaculate Conception Church in Astoria, Queens. And he sat down recently to talk with me about prayer and yoga. Talking about prayer and meditation as it kind of relates to the differences in Catholic practice, because there are the familiar prayers. There's the Our Father, there's the Rosary, there's the, things that all Catholics pretty much will know, and then there are perhaps other ways to pray and to commune with God as well. First of all, I just want to start out by asking a simple question that may not have quite such a simple answer. What is the purpose of prayer?
Prayer, very simply, is communication with God, and it is a conversation, and in its most exact and most precise way is really communication between yourself and God the Creator and the Lord Jesus and the Spirit. So it is very much a dialogue with God. These set prayers that you mentioned are helpful because sometimes you need words to be able to articulate what you're trying to say. But the purest prayer really is the free prayer that is conversation. That is a really beautiful communication between two people who care and love one another.
Now, are there other set prayers as well that maybe folks might not be as familiar with that might be used in daily prayer life?
There's a number of different set prayers, acts of contrition, faith, hope, charity. I think they used to teach more of this, the pre-Vatican II Church. But I think now it's been moving in the direction of praying in a more spontaneous and a more direct way with God.
And as you said a moment ago, a more conversational way as well.
Right, exactly.
Good. Now, our own Natalia Ortiz did a story about Christian yoga, and there has been, and she actually went and took the class and sat in on that for a while. And there has been, as she mentioned briefly in the story that she did, a little bit of controversy surrounding this. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I've been doing yoga for about 30, 40 years myself, so I find it a great way of praying. The importance of yoga as a discipline is of not ignoring the body, letting the body pray as well. There are some concerns that the Church has that I think are very valid. One, I think, is the idea of syncretism, where you try to put Hinduism, which is where yoga comes from, and Christianity together in some sort of a mix-mash. And that really doesn't work. They are very different faiths, and so they have to be both respected for what they are. So it's not really good to throw them all together and to think that's okay to do. The other thing is this idea of relativism, that it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do yoga, and I don't have to go to church. I don't have to do what a Catholic does. I do yoga, and I think that's not really what the purpose of what we would call Christian yoga is. It's a way of augmenting your own spiritual communication with God by the use of this discipline. And I think the two things that this prayer form does is it gives you a sense of discipline to your prayer. And it doesn't ignore the body, that the body is able to pray as well. As long as you realize that you're still praying to Jesus, you're still praying to the Lord, and that it's still dialogical. It's not just about me and my health and my, state of mind, right. But really it's beyond that. It's got to be dialogical, which sometimes when you get into the Eastern faiths, it's a little bit different. They look askance at duality of any kind, yeah. Whereas our faith is built on the dialogue between I and thou, God and us.
Well, that was, as you mentioned, it's part of the issue that the Church has with it, is that a lot of the Eastern philosophy, I guess, is focused more on me, and self, and how can I improve me instead of how can I improve a relationship with myself and the Creator at the same time.
Yeah, I think that that's probably a misconception of a lot of Eastern religion, is that it's very self-centered, but it really isn't. Mm-hmm. It really does bring you beyond, but it's what it brings you beyond that's different.
What it brings you to.
Right, it brings you to is different. It's not the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. It's a whole different idea of God. It's even beyond ideas. They do help us to understand that often our idea of God is not really God. And it asks, what I found it helped me to do is not to just assume that I knew what God was, because a lot of times our conceptions of God stand in the way of actually our communication with God, because we're communicating with our idea of God instead of God himself. So I think what a lot of the Eastern methods do is they hook into what we call apophatic spirituality, which is one that goes beyond images, that sees God as the loving unknown that is part of us yet beyond us at the same time. So it's a good corrective in some ways to a kind of an overly conceptual view of God, and that this is my God and this is who I relate to. It asks us to try to connect directly with God, mm-hmm. not with our concept of God. So I think that was very helpful.
Yeah. Well, in the piece that Natalia did, there was a segment where the instructor of the Christian yoga class said that she always tries to keep, no matter what they're doing, the meditations, chants, whatever, they're all centered on Christ. Does that, and that's an okay thing?
I mean, because one of the things that they do is what this idea of mantra is. While you do yoga, within the breathing, you maintain a sacred word or a sacred idea that you repeat over and over again. It's a very simple concept. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, there's the Jesus prayer, which is said Jesus over and over again. So I use the Lord's name as my mantra to connect with Jesus in many ways. So it's very similar. Actually, the Hail Mary is a kind of mantra. When you say the Rosary, it's very similar to what the Hindus call a mantra.
Okay. Well, Monsignor, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Monsignor Fernando Ferrarisi of Immaculate Conception Parish in Astoria, Queens. Well, there's much more currents straight ahead. Coming up, Lino Rulli does anything to survive a game of golf.
Lying to a nun bad?
Well, finally tonight, golfer Lucas Glover snatched the top spot at this year's U.S. Open. Now, Glover had plenty of competition, but I can probably guess that one person that is no threat at all is our own Lino Rulli.
Right. Yeah, not so much. As you may or may not know, Lino previously hosted a show in Minnesota called Generation Cross. And in this episode, Lino Rulli hits the links for a round of golf with Sister Bridget Waldorf.
I hate golf. But thankfully I've got a little help. Sister Bridget, you're going to teach me how to golf, is that right?
I'm going to give it a shot.
Whenever you want to know how to golf, go to a nun.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
So take a look at my form and tell me what I need to change, if anything.
Okay. We might have a few things to work on, Lino. Just a couple of things.
Sorry. How many yards is it?
Number one is 452 yards.
Good. Get there sometime by Labor Day. Of course, you can hit first.
You're gonna watch this, Lino.
So how'd you decide to become a sister?
Lino, you gotta be quiet here.
Hey, that's a good shot.
It'll work.
That's a decent shot. What do you mean it'll work? That's a good shot.
It'll work.
All right, is it my turn? I'm sure Sister Bridget won't talk during my backswing.
Absolutely not. Lino?
I'd like to blame that on you.
Well, you know, there is a rule that if you don't make it past the women's tees, we don't have to play those rules today.
So now can you tell me why you decided to become a sister?
I became a sister because somebody invited me to try it, to look at the lifestyle, and just found out it was a place that I really resonated with. I mean, it really wasn't something I initially thought about. You know, like some people think about it when they're young. It wasn't a case of that, but
Really?
I was just really open to it at the time. Oh, that's a beautiful shot.
Any idea where my ball is?
Yeah, it's over to the right, straight right.
Where is it?
This is really a mess, Lino.
I see. Oh, I found it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right here.
All right.
Lying to a nun bad?
You're looking to see where it goes before it goes.
I know.
So I'll watch it.
Okay. Yeah, will you watch it, please?
I'll watch it. You just hit it.
All right.
I promise to clap if it's a good shot.
Thank you. I don't know. I couldn't see
there
where.
will be no
I
clapping on
couldn't
that
see
one.
where it went. Are you kidding?
Oh.
Beautiful.
Hit it, Alice. Hit it.
What did you get?
5.
You got a 5. Is that a par?
Yeah, that's par.
That's par. What's not par? That'd be me. I'm trying to add up my score. Do you have a calculator? This is the gentlemanly thing for me to do. I can offer to carry your clubs.
No, that's okay.
No, come on. It's
really?
fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm happy to carry your clubs.
All right.
All right. Can you take mine? Thanks, because I wouldn't be able to carry them all together otherwise.
Yeah. There you go.
How's this?
That's good, yeah. But whatever works, Lino.
Excuse me. I was excited to be here as well. You know what everybody thinks about when they think of sisters?
What's that?
Celibacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same question that everybody thinks of with priests. And since I can't think of anything creative, how about that celibacy thing? Are you sick of that question?
No, I don't tire of it.
Really?
It's no, it's a normal thing for people to want to ask about. So.
Okay.
That's
Well, I'm
okay.
asking. Is it a big give up?
No, it hasn't felt like that, because I guess in some sense, I mean, I don't know what I'm giving up in that sense. You know, you know what I mean?
When the camera's off, I'll explain.
So I guess for me, the choosing of religious life is a positive thing, and you know, I don't think about the things I might be giving up, or at least not dwell on them.
That's a good way to say it.
You know,
What's the best part about being a sister?
the best part?
Yeah, what's the best part?
Oh,
We've already seen what the worst part is. You have to
Yeah.
come golfing with me.
So I think the best part is being about something bigger than myself, being part of a community that is really trying to transform the world and in our ways that we can. I think it's about, you know, my relationship with God.
All right, I think you're a little ahead of me, but how about I make this putt, we call it a tie. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
All right, here we go. Jeez. Thank you.
Oh,
Hey!
Well, we're gonna call it a tie. Can I go home?
Yeah, that means you can go home.
Let's call it a tie.
You know, only
Wow.
Lino can get away with asking certain questions.
I know, and we've definitely found that out today.
Yeah, absolutely. And he does it so well, but I mean, it's kind of cute how she answered it too.
It's very cool, and you know, I mean, not only do we have confirmed now that Lino is terrible at golf, I think I could beat Lino. That's saying something.
Yeah.
But no, it's very cool to get an insight of a sister and how she came to. It's kind of not maybe the typical story that you would think of how she came to be a nun.
Right, and basically, I think sometimes when you think of nuns, you just always think of them in their habits
Right.
and, you know, in the convent or out doing, you know, whatever kind of work that they would do, as opposed to just having fun on the golf course, which is
Right.
great. That's why I love the net and what we do over here, because we kind of show every angle to things, I
That's
think.
right.
Yeah, a
That's
little
what
bit.
we do. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now, on tomorrow's show, can social networking sites like Facebook and MySpace lead people down a deadly path? A British Archbishop seems to think so. That and more tomorrow right here on Currents.
And you can always watch or catch us online, I should say. You can watch or catch us, either way. Just head over to netny.net/currents, and there you can watch clips from the show and check out our blog called Riding the Wave.
And we'd also like to hear from you. Just send us an email, the address there. Drop us a line, all one word, at currentsny.net. Well, thanks for tuning in to Currents tonight. For all of us here, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Have a great night.